Alright, you guys, another Monday, another video. I know it's been a second since I last posted. I realized through some comments and things that with all of that being said, if you want to join me while I do a lovely little procreate painting about some foxes, and I guess listen to me chat about my experience on YouTube so far. I'm more fluent. Feel free to call me Rory. If you're new around here, hi, hello, how are you? Let me know in the comments down below. I like to create dope art content and hopefully curate a chill atmosphere. And if you're not new around here, what is up, my dudes? Let's get into this video. So, like I mentioned, it's been a week between my posts, like more than normal, and I've just been really busy, and it can be really difficult sometimes to, find the motivation to persist on YouTube, especially when things aren't really going your way, like the audio being a pain in my ass, and just kind of not growing the way that I want it to. I mean, obviously I look at my subscriber count and I'm like, holy shit, there's 1,300 of you, like that's amazing and it's really incredible. But on the other hand, I feel like engagement and things in my videos has kind of fallen off a little bit, and that's totally fine. I know it's part of the process, and I'm not like heartbroken over it or anything, but sometimes it can make it a little bit more difficult, I guess, to have that extra oomph to really make the entire video, film the process and then edit it and speed it up and, make sure it looks good, and then to sit down and have to like do a voiceover, which sometimes can be like a lot of work. I don't always want to do these voiceovers. But at the same time, like, I know how valuable they are, and I know that I really love watching YouTube videos where the person is very chatty and there's not like a ton of just an overlay of music. So I like to create that kind of content because that's the content that I like to watch. And so all of that to say that sometimes the voiceovers can be a little daunting. And as a side note, if you kind of hear any raspiness or anything in my voice, I've been sick the last week, which has also not helped with my wanting to sit down and make these voiceovers, or this particular voiceover. But it's okay. I'm powering through. I'm going to find shit to talk about, and I'm going to make a cool video because I kind of experimented a little bit with this piece. I would say, like, when I take a step back from it, like the final piece, it doesn't necessarily look like my style. I feel like I went pretty painterly, especially with the foreground of the piece, and I like the way it looks. It's fun, but I was definitely experimenting a little bit and pushing myself to do something a little bit more unique. One of my last videos, I was sitting and talking about how, like, I wanted to make sure to keep experimenting with my compositions, so I was continuing that idea and keeping that in mind as I draw, and I'd love to do some more, like, wacky angles like I did with the video where I have, like, the tiny poof of a sheep and it's looking up at this giant tree. Like, I'd love to do that some more and just have some really weird angles and perspectives, but for now, I'd say that this was pretty effective at, like, I guess experimenting, like I keep saying, and just trying to do something different and unique with the composition and with the way that I was going about painting and creating the piece. I felt like it had been so long since I'd drawn some foxes, and I love them. I think they're so much fun. Their coloring is beautiful. Those deep rusty oranges are just like, I love them. And so I knew going into this piece that I wanted to use those gorgeous rusty oranges, and at the moment in the video, you're just kind of seeing me sketch out a few different foxes, trying to get a feel for what exactly it is I want to paint. I had sort of like an idea and somewhat of a composition, and I was using references, obviously. You guys can see those. But when it came to the actual content of the piece, I wasn't totally sure what I wanted going on. Like, how many foxes did I want interacting? And what did they look like? And was there like a little story being told? Or is just like, what's going on within the actual content of the piece and the subject? And actually this little fox that I'm doodling now, I end up setting aside, and I'm probably going to make another painting out of him because I love him and I love the way he looks. Obviously, I was pulling from sketches in my sketchbook, and I just fell in love with my fox spread. There were so many of them to choose from, and I was like, oh my god, I love them all. But this little guy gets set aside and saved for later, which is, again, totally fine, you know, and once I start kind of sitting down and experimenting more with the colors, I go in knowing full well that I want to use those gorgeous oranges, and I want to try and stay away from that fucking pinky purple that I keep using in all of my paintings. I don't know what it is about that color, but I gravitate towards it, and so I was trying to pick a color palette that was a little bit different. I go for like a cooler toned purple, the like dark, deep, warm brown orangey colors, and then also like a super pale grayish green color. And I wouldn't say that it's like crazy unique or anything, but I was just trying really hard to make sure that I didn't do what I always do and just, you know, fall back on the same old colors. I even tried to be a little spicy and throw in like a brighter orange for something different, because I don't know what it is about oranges and yellows, but I don't really gravitate towards many different like tones of them. So like I'm very much a raw sienna, burnt sienna, orangey person, and when it comes to yellows, there's honestly very few. I despise lemon yellow. I'm a huge fan of like gamboge, which is like a common color in Winsor Newton paints. It's just this like very deep, vibrant yellow. It leans a little bit more on the warm tone. But like I feel like I struggle when picking yellows and oranges. So when I'm doing foxes, I always take it as an opportunity to paint with some orange, because I just can't resist those rusty tones. Like I keep saying, there's something about them that I absolutely adore. Talking about the foxes again for a second, though, I feel like I really enjoy gravitating towards like them as a subject matter, because I feel like I have a really solid understanding of how I want to draw them, and how I want to depict their fur texture and their tails, and just kind of like their vibe is like a derpy kind of silly little animal. And so I just always really enjoy drawing them because it comes really naturally to me, and I feel like I can kind of have fun and mess around. And actually with this piece, I don't end up having any subjects with like their eyes being crazy expressive. There's actually just like a little dot, which again, you guys will see kind of how I change and edit that. And I really did like the eyes on the fox that I drew going into the hole, but I just felt like, I don't know, I was looking at these cute little foxes on my sketchbook page, and I was like, you know what, I really, really like just the simple little dot for an eye, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. And you can see here in the video, I am sort of like dicking around with the composition, trying to figure out exactly what I wanted the layout of the entire piece to be. How did I want it framed? What was going on? Like I mentioned, what was the story? Do I want multiple foxes? Do I just want the one fox? You'll see me kind of start to get a little impatient because I'm just like, what the fuck do I want to do? And this is where, you know, if I felt a little bit better, had more patience and more time, I would have done a few thumbnails to figure out what I wanted to do with the subject matter of the piece before I actually started it, because that probably would have made the piece, you know, the best version of itself that it could be. But I'm effectively doing something similar here, just kind of grabbing pieces of the painting and moving them around and throwing different ideas and seeing what sticks. And so I do kind of go through a little bit of an ideation process, but it's really not very much of one. And in the end, I end up kind of really liking this idea of this fox diving headfirst into a hole where maybe a bunch of other foxes have landed. And originally I had that one little fox that's kind of curled up, kind of watching on and looking at them like, wow, what are you guys doing? This is so stupid. But like I previously mentioned, I end up putting him aside because I feel like he's just so adorable. I want him to have his own piece. And you'll see this sort of ebb and pull of like what's in the painting, what isn't in the painting, what do I want it to look like, what am I doing? This kind of goes back and forth for a while, and that's specifically because I feel like I didn't go in and like started this painting with too little of a direction, you know? Like normally I have like an idea of what's going on and that's enough, but for this one I feel like I needed a little bit more structure. Yes, I was using references, yes, I had an idea of, you know, okay, I want a fox jumping into a hole, but but like, what else do I want, you know? And I was kind of struggling to figure out how I wanted the different elements of the piece to interact. And so I ended up just kind of being like, okay, fuck it, I need to just pick some colors and figure out what I'm doing. I go in with this really gorgeous like blue-green, gray-green color that I love and adore, and I just kind of start fiddling around. This is generally where I would just do like a color composition. I would do multiple of them and figure out what colors I like the best and what composition I like them in, and then go from there. But I was kind of just feeling a little stuck. I wanted to just start throwing shit at the painting, and so that's exactly what I'm doing, is just kind of going about this very sloppily and just trying to see how I want my different, colors to be laid out around each other. Again, not really the way that I would normally do this, but I felt like ass, and I just wanted to paint something really bad. So we got like a half-assed iteration process, and it worked. I do end up creating a piece that I like and I feel like is kind of different and unique, so that's cool. It's interesting because with this particular piece, something that is normally just a piece of the process ends up kind of creating the final background, like I end up leaving a lot of this like really loose brush strokes, a lot of the really loose brush strokes that are in the front and the foreground of the piece, and I actually just kind of like build off of those, and I don't actually end up adding any line work to the foreground, which was very strange to do, but I just liked the way that it turned out so much that I was like, nope, I don't think that I need to add any line work to this. Which, if you've watched my videos before, you know that that's kind of fucking insane, because I love adding line work. It's my favorite part of a piece or a sketchbook spread or whatever it is I'm creating, because there's something about adding those smooth, nice, inky lines that really ends up just sort of like making a whole piece for me. And the fact that I didn't feel like I wanted to add that to the foreground was different, to say the least. I end up wanting there to be a little bit more going on in the background. I add these clouds, which, again, if you've seen like past videos, like pretty old videos at this point, you'll know that I really like using Steven Universe backgrounds as sort of like a jumping point for the way that I draw my landscapes. I just feel like Steven Universe had a beautiful art style, especially when it came to the landscapes, and the backgrounds of the show were gorgeous. And so you can kind of like just Google clip art of the show, and you'll see that it's beautiful. And the way that they use lines specifically to draw your eye around a scene, I just feel like is always really well done and just interesting and engaging to look at. And so I tend to keep that in mind when I am creating backgrounds and things, because Steven Universe just had this way of merging diagonals and horizontals and vertical lines to create a really interesting and engaging and yet super simple composition. I end up doing a little bit of work to the fox off screen just because I'm kind of getting a little frustrated. I'm looking at the piece and I'm like, I don't know about this. I don't know what's happening. I don't think I like what's going on. And I feel like actually one of the weirdest things about this piece is that I really only use two brushes. I use the cloudy pastel brush and the soft pastel brush from Retro Max Packs. And normally I go in with a few different texture brushes, and I just didn't really feel the need to do that. So I feel like this piece is weirdly kind of like smooth. As I start inking the piece, I also do some weird little things with like the inking of the foxes that are stuck in the hole already, where like those lines are almost sketchy and very fluid and thin. And I don't normally play with like the thickness of my line work too much. I use a Gazinski ink brush, which just comes on like the iPad, and I think that's how I pronounce it anyways. And so anyways, it does have, like pressure sensitivity, so it does kind of add a fluidity and a really nice like weight to my lines. But at the same time, I really don't tend to focus a lot on the weight of my line work. And so normally it's all generally about the same, and I was kind of being really specifically light-handed when inking the foxtails that are sticking up out of the hole and the little feet and everything. this is kind of the part in the video where I feel like the foreground starts to come to life finally. I'm really focusing on that and trying to just, paint like flowers and like weird little grassy bits, and not just kind of like, oh, it's blades of grass, or oh, it's bushes, because that tends to be my fallback. I really wanted to do something interesting and unique with the foreground, and specifically with the subject matter in the foreground. So I had these little like purpley flower things in mind, and they're just sort of like a long stick with a cluster at the end, and so that's kind of what I'm trying to depict here. And just keep it really light and kind of impressionistic and a little like expressive with the painting lines that I'm drawing, because in the end I don't end up inking over it. Yeah, like looking at this piece, I just feel like there's like a softness to it that my pieces don't normally have, and I'm kind of intrigued by it. I don't know if I want to make a point of trying to continue to have this softness in my pieces, or if this is kind of like a one and done thing and I was just experimenting. I do think a big part of it has to do with the lack of texture brushes. I feel like sometimes I go ham with those, and so this just kind of has this very smooth vibe, which I think is interesting. But I do think I want to keep in mind this not needing to ink every part of a piece, because I generally get so much joy out of the line work and completing the line work on a piece that I very rarely, if ever, leave parts of it without being inked in, and I quite like the effect in the foreground. I also think it's adding to the softness of this piece, which I do think is kind of amusing, because it is like a fox launching himself into a hole with a bunch of other foxes, but like if you just kind of glance at the piece and look at it, you're like, oh, what a calm little scene. And it's like, well, actually it's supposed to be a little chaotic, but I don't know. I think the juxtaposition works. I'm sure you guys will let me know. And finally, one of my favorite parts of any piece, the inking. It's so nice, and it's kind of fun to watch me like go over every little line that I've created. Like, I love drawing clouds. They're so fun and round and bulbous, and I just I was having a lot of fun like trying to get the perfect lines on the clouds, and I just, even watching it back, I'm like, yeah, that looks really good. I'm a little bit like, should I make the clouds like a different color, or does the fact that they sort of fade into the background work? I'm not sure. I'll have to kind of take another look at the final piece, but here you're getting to see all the little details of my little fox boy, and you see I kind of changed his eye. Instead of it being like this round sort of like infected looking eye, I just made it the soft little dot, because I kind of wanted him to be less goofy. I don't know why. I was feeling the kind of cutesy vibe for this piece. Oh, and then of course I gave him multiple tails, which I really liked, and then sort of like had them almost like ink blobs kind of trailing off of him, like they're not fully attached to his body like the one tail is, and I really like that detail. I like the way that this fox turned out like a lot. And with some of these last final little details, that is the end of this piece and this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Please do let me know in the comments below if you like this piece, this sort of soft vibe and everything that's going on, because I had a really good time making it. It was kind of hard at points, but I feel like that's part of what made it different, is because I was struggling a little bit, and it's been a while since I've struggled in a Procreate painting. I really love the little like fox like feet in the air and their little tails, and I don't know, I like this painting even though it's kind of different, and I hope that you guys too. So yeah, with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. Feel free to do the YouTubey things like comment and subscribe. If you don't know what to comment algorithm, because it helps, and hopefully I'll get to talk to you in the next one. Bye.